Welcome to the Horse Speak Book Club. I'm Laura Wilsey, and we are embarking on a journey through the Horse Speak Trilogy. Today, we are reading from Horses in Translation, written by Sharon Wilsey. We are starting on page 108 under the subtitle of Ki. The Horse Speak team is dedicated to giving horses a voice and being their well-deserved advocates. We provide evidence-based knowledge that is intrinsic, observable, and repeatable. We offer online courses, a weekly video club where we look at herd dynamics to riding. We offer in-person clinics, so if you would like to learn more, please check out our website at horsespeakacademy.com. Everyone here has a varied horsemanship background, and we ask you to help us have a safe environment here so we all can learn and have fun. Thank you so much, and let's get going here on page 108, PI. A big smile widened across my face. Dave, you are going to Ki near Timmy so that he can hear and see you. At first, Dave was concerned that this would upset Timmy. I assured him that this demonstration of power with immediate return to zero was exactly what his horse was looking for. We went inside Timmy's paddock, and the horse looked up from his hay, but did not come over. I had Dave aim at the side of the round pen and pretend to hit one of the panels. We didn't want to actually break anything. Timmy became very, very still and staring at Dave, who stood where he was, practicing his martial arts breathing, with palms down toward the earth to ground himself. Timmy then offered a very clear go-away face and moved his neck to the side too, holding his posture for a good minute. Dave was blown away. Was Timmy deferring space to him? Then he remembered that he had actually seen Timmy do this on several occasions, only he had thought it meant the horse was tuning him out. When Timmy brought his face back around to Dave to look at Dave, it was no longer wrinkled around his eyes and his ears had flopped to the sides. He bobbed his head and then did an aw shucks to show he wanted to keep the energy calm and respectful. I told Dave to do the same thing, nodding his head and scuffing the ground lightly with his toe of his boot. Then I had Dave turn slightly to the side to invite Timmy to his shoulder, where horses line up for bonding. Timmy made a beeline for Dave's shoulder, stopping just outside his bubble of personal space for one more head turn and aw shucks to make sure he was welcome and that the energy was just right for them both. The Mustang then reached over while elongating his neck in a proper, polite horse greeting and touched Dave's knuckles lightly with his lips. Dave smiled ear to ear. But then his eagerness overcame him, and he reached through both of their bubbles of personal space to rub Timmy on his head. Timmy immediately pulled back, pinned his ears, and puckered his whole face in what could be described as disgust. Then he reached over and nipped Dave's arm before marching away. I didn't need to say a thing. Dave's eyes had grown wide, and he pronounced loudly, I blew it, didn't I? Dave had gotten the first glimpse of what Timmy's problem really was. He was extremely protective of his personal space, and in Dave's attempt to be extra friendly with him, Dave unintentionally caused his horse to feel invaded. Another horse that was more stoic would have probably just come to ignore Dave's loving and learned to take stride in it. But Timmy was wild born. Personal space was always going to be important to him. I went back to the drawing board with Dave. We practiced his Ki intensity with the ability to stay at or return to zero, becoming more and more attainable. I also taught Dave to imagine a glass wall between us that we would literally bump into when moving through the exercises. I had Dave hold his hand out at an arm's length like a cop stopping traffic whenever I tried to get close to him. He did not need to stop me physically or yell at me. He simply had to let me know where his glass wall was always. Next, I help him become aware of his belly button. Why? Because where we aim our belly button is where we aim to go. We can be looking left, but if our belly button is aiming right, that is where we are going to end up. Horses know this. For them, this directive center is their chest. Wherever their chest is aiming tells you where they truly intend to move. I had Dave keep his cop stop hand at his belly button to help illustrate how we can maintain his bubble of space. By learning to keep his own bubble defined, he would make Timmy's more defined. The security Timmy would feel from this would be the soothing balm that would lead to a truly authentic connection between Timmy and Dave. When this happened, natural affection, such as what the Mustang's mother had given him, would be allowed to emerge. Violet?
Sorry, my phone's ringing.
Oh, no problem.
Caught up in a minute. Okay, round three. With a big breath, Dave entered Timmy's pen again. He nodded his head, turned a little to the side, aiming his shoulder at his horse, and held out his knuckles. Then Dave bent over just a little to make more of an O and welcomed Timmy to his side. Timmy wasted no time walking over with a lowered head, sideways ears, and a lot of huffing breaths coming out of his nostrils. Timmy was using a beckoning expression to tell Dave that he wanted to try again too. They had 1, 2, 3 touches softly and quickly, but not the speed racer version Timmy had offered me at the beginning of the day. The Mustang wanted all 3 touches from Dave to symbolize an official greeting in which all the rules were followed. This was very, very good. If Timmy followed the horse rules of conduct and Dave followed the rules too, the outcome for them together would be much better. Timmy then offered go away face, which he dramatically performed and held for about 30 seconds. I told Dave to mimic this, moving his head away a bit to say, thank you, very good. The Mustang politely reached for Dave's knuckles to perform a check-in. He was seeking connection and security as he would with another horse with whom he'd bonded. Dave lingered while breathing deeply, then moved his hand away. This was done perfectly, and Timmy again offered go away face to show his respect for Dave's personal space. I instructed Dave to take one defined, clear step away from his horse to indicate he was more concerned about personal space than contact right now. Timmy took one dramatic step away from Dave, too. I call this copycat. Now I had Dave initiate a check-in, immediately followed by pointing toward the go away face button so that he could begin to demonstrate his role as leader. Dave did this very clearly and cleanly, and Timmy not only did go away face, but took his whole body in a circle and then came back to greet Dave one more time. I told Dave that this was Timmy's way of saying he trusted him with all his body parts, all his buttons, and in fact, his whole self. When a horse offers this polite sail-by movement that is performed slowly and deliberately, he is saying he trusts you not to be a bully and that you are welcome to move any part of him. Timmy not only did a sail-by, he also circled and came back. This meant he understood that he and Dave were bonded and he should return to him. Dave admitted that during this sequence, his mind had been doubtful, and the voice in his head had been saying things like, "See, he's leaving you. This isn't working. He's ignoring you." Yet the feeling he had when Timmy turned and came back was one of such warmth and happiness. Dave's worst fear was that by setting limits, he would lose Timmy's affection and possibly be betraying his trust. However, the consequences of not setting clean, low intensity boundaries had been making Timmy feel frantic, overwhelmed, and nippy. Helping Dave find ways to set boundaries using horse speak gave him tools to try that were within reason and safe for both of them. Cooking class. The difference between training and communicating can be best illustrated with a cooking class metaphor. Let's say you want to learn to make a real Italian lasagna and you sign up for a cooking class with that goal in mind. You have a huge smile on your face as you enter the classroom full of delicious smells. You've never been so excited to learn something new. As you find a seat next to another student, your instructor turns to the class and says, "Ciao," and proceeds to speak in Italian. Let's suppose you do not know Italian, but many of the students do. And so a lovely conversation in another language is flying around the room as the instruments are pulled out and the various foods are diced, boiled, chopped, and sautéed. At the end of class, you have followed along enough to be able to pull something out of the oven. Yours does not look like the others, but it smells okay, and you think you more or less got the gist of it. Yet the class was confusing, and you felt left out of all the jokes and frustrated that you couldn't even ask a simple question. Welcome to a horse's life. Horses do not speak human, although many learn enough to get by. Whatever the horse has come to learn about what we expect from him, the desired outcome, the why, and the reasons behind the why are a mystery to him. If by chance he discovers a method to our madness and starts to predict what we want, he may be chastised for anticipating. He is often confused, rarely gets the jokes, and usually can't communicate his questions. All the while, maybe the horse doesn't even like lasagna. The main objective of the cooking class was to learn to make food, but the class itself was about socializing, communicating, bonding, and togetherness, all of which were only possible if you could speak the language. And what if someone in your class borrowed all your implements, slopped their chopped garlic all over your part of the counter, and spilled wine on your apron? Not only would you be frustrated by your inability to point out how rude he was being, you might even want to hit or bite him. Horse speak is about learning the language so that bridge of understanding can be crossed. Once horses know you are trying to talk to them, even if your accent is thick, they immediately try to reach back across that bridge to talk to you too.
Thank you. Nancy?
Timmy and Dave bake lasagna. Timmy and Dave were off to a new beginning, but there were a few more aspects of communication we needed to introduce to help their relationship progress. In all their years together, haltering had been a huge drag, according to Dave, with Timmy pinning his ears and evading. There is often confusion relating to haltering, so I had Dave and Timmy try an exercise called Say Hello to Your Halter. 3 touches to the halter and a go away face in which both Timmy and the halter moved away to show respect from both sides. Then I had Dave walk a small circle and return with the halter to show Timmy that he could trust him. Timmy bowed his head low, blew through his nose profusely, licked his lips, and blinked his eyes to loudly demonstrate agreement and a bit of, phew, glad that's cleared up. Then Timmy stood stock still as Dave put on the halter, while keeping his belly button facing forward and aiming his shoulder at the Mustang's shoulder. Basically, they were both facing the same direction, with Dave a little further back than he would be usually. The big difference, however, was that normally Dave faced his horse, and then his belly button and probably some X was driving pressure that Timmy wanted to scoot away from. I had them repeat the exercise several times. By the end, Dave walked slowly around the pen, holding the halter, with Timmy following the halter as though he was enamored of it. The last time Dave stepped up with the halter raised, the horse practically stuck his own face in it. Dave was smiling ear to ear and shaking his head. Now it was time to practice leading Timmy from the perspective of body language. When we are babies and we first learn to crawl, we place our palms down to do so. Our brains are hardwired to feel grounded when we hold our palms downward. This message can be directly sent through the lead rope to a horse. If you are willing to give up holding the lead rope in the usual fashion with your hands closest to the horse's head, thumbs up, most people don't actually give this much thought. They simply grab the rope as it hangs from the halter and walk forward. This seems logical enough. However, when we grab onto something with our thumb up, we are using muscle, mostly bicep, to move whatever it is. This works well for paddling a canoe, digging a ditch, but not so much for encouraging a horse to follow us softly. I demonstrated. I had Dave hold a clasp of the lead rope in two hands out in front of him at arm's length. The rope fell naturally downwards, as it would if the clasp was attached to the bottom ring of a halter. I took the rope in my hand with my thumb up, as most of us would normally do, and motioned for him to follow. Placing a tiny amount of pressure on the rope to let the horse, in this case Dave, know that he should come forward, again, as most of us would do, I watched as Dave's upper body reacted to the sudden perceived tug. He lurched forward a step with his eyes wide in surprise. Then his face hardened as he took stubborn, rigid steps. I then proceeded to try to make a sharp turn like anyone might do to close a gate or a stall door. Dave slammed into me, and I used my elbow defensively, as we often do with our horses, to keep them from toppling over on us. Dave acknowledged the elbow thing was far too familiar to him. After shaking that off for a minute, we started again. I had him resume holding the clasp of the lead rope out in front, and this time I exaggerated, rounding my arm over and downward to demonstrate the way to place your palm downward on the lead rope with your pinky finger facing upward and your thumb pointing downward. As you move to lead forward and your hand rises, your knuckles are in the same position that they are for saying hello or doing a check-in. And so you may find your horse wants to, a huge benefit because it encourages bonding and responsiveness to you as a kind leader that your horse wants to follow. In addition, when a horse has a habit of being defensive and nippy when led, you can simply raise your lead rope knuckles up towards the go away face button and even point your finger at it as you walk along. If necessary, you can lead the horse the whole way in this position, which simply says to him, let's have space the whole time we are going somewhere together. Generally, horses that are nippy while being led simply feel too close to their handlers or like their space has been invaded, or they are confused about what is too close or not close enough. Your palm down on the lead rope offers a stabilizing sensation to the horse. Dave was amazed as now we waltzed along in perfect harmony. He found himself happy to walk in step and even halt in time with me. But he wondered, what should he do about when Timmy gets stubborn? With a smile, I asked him to resist me. He was a big man, and as he leaned back against the lead rope, I performed the scooping up motion I discovered with Rocky, see page 80. With my hand in the simple palm down position, I rotated my whole arm as though scooping a huge round of ice cream out of one of those big bins at the ice cream parlor. Then I just stood there. After about 30 seconds, the weight and tension he was applying to the lead rope eased, and I immediately released the scoop like it was a hot potato. Then I scooped one more time, and Dave found himself willingly follow me, following the motion before he could even think about it. I returned my hand to a palm down position and let out some slack in the rope so he could have more room. He found himself drifting comfortably to the side of me, and I elevated my arm and hand out to my side an extra 4 inches, like the cop stop pin from before, only with palm down invitation to keep moving. I was defining my bubble, but welcoming him to follow. Eager to try the leading technique with Timmy, Dave re entered the round pen, and Timmy immediately sauntered over. Dave said hello and blew a long, slow breath at Timmy to show connection. Timmy blew back and lowered his head. Dave slipped the halter on without a problem and clipped on the lead rope. Timmy's head shot up with a worried look came over him. I told Dave the only way through was through, and should start leading his horse. After he took a few nervous steps, I told Dave to add his palm down hand toward Timmy's go away face button and give the Mustang some slack in the rope. In about 2 strides, Timmy blew out a huge breath of relief and shook his head like a dog shaking water off a coat after a bath. His head dropped lower. His ears flopped sideways. I encouraged the pair to walk around obstacles in the pen and change directions a few times. I reminded Dave to make one clear stomp when he wanted to stop because horses lead through their feet and stop each other that way too. Timmy halted one on a dime, lining up his front feet with Dave's.
Thank you, Alexis.
Going back to go forward. Dave led Timmy out of the pen and around the surrounding area. A few times Timmy became nervous and attempted to herd Dave back toward the pen, but Dave now raised his X an appropriate amount, managing his power like his ki, and easily redirected Timmy using the mid-neck and shoulder buttons. He also practiced something I call the therapy backup, whenever Timmy became pushy. This specific movement releases tension in the lower back and pelvis of the horse, which is why I call it therapeutic. Horses tuck their tails when nervous, like dogs, and their pelvis can store quite a lot of habitual tension. By releasing this tension, we also encourage the horse to release stored anxiety or fear. The first time I helped Dave into position to work the therapy backup, Timmy resisted, swishing his tail and lifting his chest up in complaint. I told Dave to keep his eyes on Timmy's rump while tickling the backup button, located at the apex of the triangle shape exactly where the front leg meets the bulk of the shoulder. See page 42. As soon as Dave touched the button, Timmy's whole front leg shook in a spasm. This spot is full of nerves, which is why you only need to point at it to have an effect. Dave practiced a reverse scoop under Timmy's chin, drawing toward his chest. The whole effect was to encourage the horse's skeleton to round and release. Dave was amazed as we literally saw Timmy's hind end buckle and soften downward. He asked for a single step back. This should feel good to the horse, not like you're being pushy. They did one step at a time, with pauses in between, for a few minutes, until Timmy suddenly began to yawn profusely. I told Dave to step to the Mustang's shoulder, keeping his belly button angled away from the horse to take any pressure off him and encourage even more relaxation. When they stepped forward again to resume their walk, Timmy had dropped his head, neck, and shoulders, as well as any tension in his belly. Essentially, he looked shorter and fatter. He was blinking his eyes and taking huge breaths. Finally, it was time to show real affection. We brought Timmy back to the round pen and turned him loose. I explained that horses only enjoy affection with each other when all the other aspects of their relationship are settled and the world is safe. Dave nodded his head slightly to Timmy to let Timmy know he wanted to get closer. Timmy moved his head and neck to the side and popped his shoulder toward Dave, telling him to buddy up. Dave went to the horse's shoulder and began to stroke his withers in a soothing downward motion. Scratching with an up and down motion might feel good to the horse, but it goes against the growth of hair and can be overstimulating. Gently rocking his own body while he did this, Dave soon found that Timmy had lowered his head and was yawning so wide that his eyes were rolling back in his head. I had Dave move towards Timmy's head about 2 small steps forward, while trailing his hand forward through the horse's mane. When Dave's hand reached the back of Timmy's poll, the Mustang dropped his head even lower and flopped his ears sideways. I told Dave he could run his hand firmly but gently between the horse's ears and onto his forehead. Timmy pressed his head close to Dave's body while Dave stroked him. I encouraged Dave to lightly roll his hands over Timmy's eyes while thinking how he wanted his horse to close his eyes and trust him. Timmy loved this so much that he gently moved his head into Dave's hands even more. It is important not to be greedy in these moments. I let Dave know it was time to quietly step away. Timmy just gazed at the big man as though he'd been drugged. Then he pawed the ground and laid down. So we just hung out, quietly talking about Dave's experience while standing guard over the deeply peaceful Timmy. Dave felt guilty for not understanding his horse's true needs before. He knew his regular trainer meant well, but fundamentally Dave had not understood the intentions and meanings behind his horse's reactions and messages, and how the work he did with him influenced his behavior. This behavior. Horses forgive much more quickly than we do. All Timmy cared about was that Dave would be consistent now and that they had found a better platform for their relationship. As he stood in quiet reflection, Dave admitted that the encounter he had just experienced reminded him of the deep love he witnessed Timmy sharing with his mom. He was supremely happy to have finally reached that level of connection with his horse. This had been his goal all along, and the force behind whatever other training technique Dave tried to use. Should I keep reading?
No, BJ. Yep, thank you.
Transitions. After this pivotal experience, Dave felt much more confident about the other aspects of the work he liked to do with his horse. They enjoyed trail riding together, and Dave aspired to do Western dressage. Under saddle, Timmy was pretty good, but they did have arguments from time to time. With his newfound understanding, those arguments were replaying in Dave's mind in a whole new light. He now felt he had some idea of what may have been bothering his horse at those times. I told Dave that the next time he and Timmy entered the round pen to practice transitions before he got on, he needed to have exactly what he wanted to do in his mind. I even had him write it down. Timmy, we're going into the round pen to practice transitions and get ready for riding. This is supposed to be fun, and I'm here for you. Don't worry about a thing. The problem was not necessarily the transition work in the round pen, but the lack of connection to each other while doing it. Trotting and cantering around was not going to magically make a relationship happen, nor would it suddenly make Timmy feel or act safe. Dave had been so stuck in his own feelings, sadness and guilt for the way his horse lost his life in the wild, and then his mother, that putting Timmy through his paces was not actually fun for him. He had only done it because otherwise he did not feel he could trust his horse under saddle. Giving Dave a new way of thinking about staying connected, even while working in the round pen, was the missing link. I felt confident that they would be able to work through any future confusion now that Dave was aware and open to his horse's means of communicating. The fact that we had arrived at such an affectionate and lovely moment between the two of them ensured that he too saw the value of understanding how the horse saw him, and as well as how his horse related to the world. Lick and chew. On the list of top 10 things that are misunderstood between horses and people, I would say that healthy boundaries are near the top. Perhaps it's because of our tendency to look at horses and wish for puppy piles, or it is due to our habit of relating to an idea inside our own heads instead of seeing what is right in front of us. For far too many people, healthy boundaries are a challenge in life for any number of reasons. Horses offer us the chance to work out this confusion in a spirit of connection. They need and want us to be simple, quiet, and clear about our bubbles of personal space before we start merging them. The go away face button is the cleanest, calmest, and most direct button horses possess for this very reason. Although this can seem too easy, sometimes horse speak really is that simple. Once we understand that a horse is turning his head calmly away from us, or even stepping gently away, it is a compliment, and that horses use space like a commodity. So much clarity can come to light. Even if a horse is turned away and doesn't seem to want to engage, the very act of turning away means that he has yielded the space to you. He may not want to hang out with you right now, but he didn't drive you off. He gave you room. We ruin the possibility for peaceful connection when we take this personally and go after him. Everyone needs clear X's and O's, not merging confusing signals. The bonding is always better as soon as boundaries are cleared up. And remember, to truly communicate clearly with a horse, we must understand what dark thoughts may be lurking in the back of our own minds. Like a horse gives us space, we must be able to give those dark thoughts some space. Only then can we truly reach out for connection.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, ladies, for reading this morning. And it's funny, I was like, what is the keynote of what we're reading today? And of course, the Lick and True pulls it together, talking about healthy boundaries. And I think that, as we were reading together today, and again, the gift of Sharon's writing ability to be able to bring us visually in our minds, at least this is what happens for me. It's like being there in the session. And it's like, this is truly how this is written in just how many ever pages we just read today, of how quickly these transformations can happen. And again, please, if you have any comments, please put them in the chat or raise your virtual hand and we can have a discussion about the topics that we went over today. And it's so important that we have a new thing, and I'm not going to get into it right now, but it was interesting. It's called the 8 Principles of Healthy Horsemanship. And one of the topics is about, we could have a beautiful dream about doing something with our horse. And it could be just simply or complexly riding. Okay. And then the big thing is, we have this thing in our head. I want to ride my horse. And then how much accidental pressure are we putting upon ourselves and the horse to be able to get to that ultimate goal? And are we actually seeing what's happening in the moment? And so in the moment, it could be like this experience that with Timmy and Dave, where the horse is like, I can't even come near you, right? So then this dream, which is reasonable to ride your horse, but you can't even put a halter on. So therefore, it's like, how do we, pull this all together and chunk it down into small pieces to be able to have this really cohesive relationship? And the number one thing, and it's just as, Sharon wrote, Dave said, I just ruined everything basically, because he reached through the bubble and went for the touch. And again, we do, I think most of us have animals because of that, the feeling of petting your dog or your cat or your horse, right? And then there's the smell of your horse, and it's just like, it's really yummy. And depending on, the horse that we have, then we might not be able to actually touch them yet. So to be able to slow it down and really be able to navigate the bubble of personal space with them. And especially if you do have a sensitive horse, the belly button, the direction of where your belly button is going is where you're planning on going. And for a horse that is as sensitive as Sharon wrote about Timmy, and talking about the belly button pressure on was a lot of energy for Timmy. So that is definitely, a keynote thing to pay attention to. And even if you are going into more advanced things such as lunging, and if your horse is constantly stopping and you're not meaning to have them stop, it is possible that your belly button is accidentally cutting off the forward movement. And that it's so amazing that they're that fine-tuned to be able that they will stop because we're blocking them accidentally. So I have some more thoughts, but let's Ducka, what do you have to say? Just a second. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today?
I am doing so good.
Yay.
A week ago Friday, I adopted a new horse, and she is a retired now lesson and trail horse.
Mhm.
And she comes to me with quite a bit of baggage, more than carry on, as being a lesson and trail horse and
Yeah.
dealing with general public. And she had a big job. She took people on rides, approximately 400 rides a year for like the last 5 years.
Wow.
So she had begun getting very defensive about things, and her defense was to turn and bite, especially surrounding tacking up and those types of things, where I think she has some discomfort, and I haven't even investigated that yet. But I was talking to Diane the other day and just telling her how much fun I am having with her. And this whole topic today resonates so much with me because, like, one of the things that really brought tears to my eyes was I recognized the first time she came over and checked in with me when I walked up to the stall.
Yeah.
And then she yielded her head to give me space. Now, before Horse Speak, I would have thought, what did I do?
Right.
Why aren't you looking at me? But and she will do all of these new things that now I know to recognize. And then she keeps doing them. Once she does it the first time, she keeps doing it. And it's just so amazing. When you were talking about showing the buttons, I thought, the other day, she would watch for Riley when he was out in the field, and I would sit in a chair with her and just have her back out in her little paddock. And she was good with that, but she had hay outside and inside, and she would turn facing Riley to go in and eat. And then sometimes she'd stick her head out and do a little lick and chew. Then one day she turned and faced me on her way into the hay. And I thought that was so big to turn and face me. And now I'm realizing also she was not only facing me, but she was showing me all her buttons on her way in to get the hay.
Cool. Yeah.
So she's doing so many things. And, friends of mine, one friend in particular, who's a wonderful, wonderful person, but she's like, you got to ride her. She's used to being ridden. She's used to having a job and this and that and the other thing. Finally, she said it, and she said, and I'm going to keep reminding you. And finally, I said, okay, I have to address it. And I said, I just need to let you know that I'm feeling very judged, and that does not feel good to me. And I am going to take care of Praline the way I feel is best for Praline, and I'm going to follow her lead.
Wow.
Done.
Boom. Mic drop.
Exactly.
Good for you.
And I'm not good at, being advocate for myself and taking care of myself.
Yeah.
So I felt good about that. And she's like, oh, wow. Well, I'm really glad you told me that. I didn't realize that. And I said, well, yes, I'm feeling very judged, and let's not keep doing this, because I'm going to do what I feel like is best for Praline.
Yeah. Wow. And we have applause to you actually in the chat. Nice boundary. Good job. Bravo. It's not easy to say or do, but you delivered it so well.
It's so hard to not say it and offend the other person.
Yeah, because it feels defensive, because you're, that you are following the lead of Praline, and that you also need to stay safe, you had this whole hip thing go on, what has it been, barely a year?
It's been 2 years.
Oh my God, has it really?
Yeah,
2 years.
It's been 2 years, but
oh my God. Time is going by so fast.
There's still muscle damage there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to do it again. I've got another hip that could go.
Right.
But I also, I've got grandkids involved. I need for Praline to understand that biting is not a thing to do.
Yeah. And, so therefore, I would assume, I mean, so it's crazy. You said 400 rides in a year for the last 5 years. That's
Yeah,
2,000 rides. And that's actually more than one ride per day. There's 365 days in a year.
many days she was going on 3 rides in a day.
Yeah, that's hardcore.
And
So,
she progressed. And the barn is a really great barn. They actually take very, very good care of the horses.
yeah.
Between boarders and horses that live there, there are like 50 horses. They're out in a big herd. That's a huge change for her. um, but she was a lesson horse, and the lesson kids were tacking them up, and then her behavior was not trustworthy enough, so she stopped being a lesson horse and only a trail horse, where the staff would always tack her up.
Yeah.
So, and the tacking up is really the big problem for her.
Mm.
So,
I just like, well, thank you for this. And you had mentioned some chat information during our webinar on Saturday, Restarting Your Horse. And there it's possible the ribs, that we've met so many horses,
yeah,
especially if he's been ridden that much, that their rib cage, because of the torque of the saddle getting on and off,
yes,
the girth line, it can be, highly defensive, because they're like, ow. So, as you explore with her, I mean, this is going to be such a beautiful journey. And I know from our horse Zeke, the Andalusian that was in the first book, he also had multiple riders a day, and he had
yeah,
injuries, and he was a biter and all that. And so it was just like, you be you, and we're going to explore, your body, but you're just going to be a horse, and you can just hang out. And we had him for 7 years, you know
yeah.
and it was just a beautiful thing, and he wanted to be ridden, and we did ride him some, up until almost the day he died. Not all the time, but we'd jump on him and we'd go for a 10-minute ride around the trail that we had at the old house. So it's you're going to take the time it takes. And I appreciate, PJ, what you brought in. The other person only knows what they know. Your friend will begin to see through your example and the responses, and trust you received from praline. So it's this, you good for you. And this is the interesting thing about us as people. We can struggle with ourselves and our boundaries, and we don't say the thing that's murmuring in our head to that person, but and what a beautiful practice to be able to say to this woman or friend, to be like, hey, I'm just gonna follow the lead of my horse, and so let me just be honest with you. And so that's really cool to preserve the relationship with this person, because
Exactly. That my relationship with her is very important. She's a very good friend.
yeah, yeah,
So
it's really great. So I appreciate you sharing today, because yeah, you're in it. You're in this emotional and physical rehabilitation with praline, and we look forward to hearing more about this journey.
I'm really excited about it. And I do fully expect to ride her a lot.
Yeah,
But when she's ready, after
sure.
she's had chiropractic, after she's had body work,
Mhm.
after she really knows where she is, I had an animal communicator talk to everybody before moving her here.
Huh?
We've had little check-ins since she's been here. I'm just doing it my way.
Yeah. Well, and I just, the other thing I wanted to appreciate about what you were saying is that you're observing like everything means something, basically. That she did a go away face, or she yielded her cheek, popped her shoulder to you, like, come on in. She was inviting you in by yielding the space, and then watching her turn and show you all the buttons. So, this journey, it's like, I just love hearing the pieces that you're the small little things that you're appreciating, because your eye has been trained to be able to see these little nuances, and that they have meaning behind them. So I'm just like, and thank you so much for being on this journey with us. I'm
It's
so
so
happy for you.
wonderful because I kept feeling like, when am I really going to get it? When am I going to really get it? And now I'm like, oh my God, I'm seeing it.
Yay, congratulations, good work. I love this.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome,
you.
darling. Stay safe in the snow, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Cheers. All right. And Violet, I'll get to you in 1 second. And let's see, I think there was another, pardon me, I don't have a mouse, which is annoying being on the laptop. And to circle back to PJ's comment earlier, healthy dreaming starts with healthy boundaries. Boundaries where the safety is. The thing that means safety to us as humans may not be the thing, may not be the thing safety means to the horse. Touch to humans, as we are primates, means safety. Horses find safety in the space between. Yes, thank you for that. That's really well said, because of the more we do share space, just shoulder on shoulder, like was mentioned in our reading today, that can mean so much to our horse. And each horse is such an individual, and that's the big thing that when we're teaching horse speak, it's like we wish we could give you a prescription, do 1 through 10, and here's the end result. And so this is why, knowing who we are, balancing our X and O, everyone needs clear X's and O's, and not merging and not confusing. The bonding is always better as soon as boundaries are cleared up. So the more we can just be in that liminal space, the space in between, that does open the door to create more bonding. And I'm even having that with my squirrels. I have sugar glider squirrels, and one of them does not want to be touched. She's like, absolutely not. So I'm blinking and licking my lips from a distance and approaching her and then getting away from her. So I'm hoping over time she was never handled before. So I'm hoping over time, this will be also effective with her, that she can be herself. And when she moves, then I move away too. So it's been really neat to navigate with my squirrel to see how I can help her see if she's interested in having human affection. So good for you, Ducka. I had a barn drama with another boarder this week concerning boundaries in my horse. On a better note, I was wondering what my horse was telling me as he turned his neck to the right by me at his shoulder. I had palm up and put muzzle palm, and he did the whole thing slowly 3 times very clearly. I had an idea of the meaning. Any thoughts? He is recovering from a choke experience. I'm sorry to hear about the choking. That is really scary. So I tried to reread this. I was wondering. I had a palm up in his muzzle. So I think that from what you said here, that he is really, he's like asking you, do you have me? I'm with you. Are we together? And if he's had a throat thing, so then he might be feeling more vulnerable and maybe a little bit of insecurity. So then he appreciated you to have, being checking in with him, and he's just like, whew, I need to slow down a little bit and are you with me, for me? And that's how I take what you wrote here, without seeing it on a video, that he wanted to be more formal with you, with the slow greeting. And perhaps you could even formalize it a little bit deeper and scan the horizon with him and be like, yep, I see you over there. And then check in with him, and I see you over here, and then check in. So then make it a true formal greeting. That could be something interesting that could help him feel a deeper depth in the connection. So that, yeah, and he's just like checking in more. He might just have a little bit of deeper insecurity because of that scare of the choking. So I'm glad that he's better and that everything is okay. Thank you, PJ. The protocols are kind of like a prescription. When we follow the protocols, we build safety because they are the horse's equine language protocols. Yes, thank you for, bringing that in, because yes, there is the nuances of the personality of us as well as the horse. But then, yes, the protocols are a prescription, checking the environment, making sure we're in the buffer zone when we go into arenas and things of that nature that we have set up that we've found that are very successful with any horse personality. So then with following those protocols, then we can be in the language and navigate the horse that's in front of us. Just like if we were talking to, each other, we might know someone's reference points. Like PJ, for example, I know she has a lot of experience in the veterinarian world because she ran a veterinarian office for 30 years with her husband, who was the doctor. And so therefore I know that her reference point is health and well-being of animals. And so then I can gauge myself in some of my questions or how I speak to her. And then, with Ducka, oh, I know she had a hip thing. So the reference point of like her protecting herself and her preservation. So, we, gather from the knowledge that we know. So, Violet, I'm going to put you on and on the audio and love to hear what you have to say today.
Yeah, it's quick. I also resonated with that last comment of Sharon's at the end of the chapter, how like when the horse turns away from you. Because 2 weeks ago I showed a video that PJ commented on. I was trying to like connect with Pearl, this mini who's very self-confident, and she seemed sort of mad at me lately. And so I was trying to like connect with her, but there were other horses in the paddock and she wasn't very interested in greeting. And at one point she turned her head away when I tried to greet her. And I was like, oh no, she doesn't like me. And then later on I like stepped up to her, put my hand on her wither, and she just like walked away. And I said, "Oh, she's blowing me off." And PJ said, "No, no, she didn't go far. She just took a few steps because she didn't want you touching her. She wants you to. She's trying to teach you the right thing to do. Like you haven't figured out what she needs." So I just wanted to say that, like a few days later, I went out to that paddock and the horses came to greet me at the gate, and then Pearl stood by the fence and just kind of hung out there. And Fancy, this other horse that really likes me, is Pony. I was sort of hanging out with her, touching her buttons. She loves that. But she kept looking over at some guy who had come out of the barn to mulch a tree or something. And he kept going back and forth, and she kept staring at him while I was hanging out with her. So I did some sentry, didn't seem to help. And then I thought, okay, I'll walk the perimeter of the fence line because that's a stronger protection message. And I didn't have a halter with me, so I just walked by myself.
Yeah.
And Fancy kind of watched. And then as I was coming back, both Fancy and Pearl went and walked to the other end of the space where there was some hay on the ground that Kelly was cleaning up. I thought, oh, it worked. They feel safer now. They can walk over there. But the best thing was that halfway there, Pearl came up to me, did a check-in, and then kept going. And I felt like she was giving me her seal of approval. Like she was saying, ah, you got it right that time. And it made me really happy.
That's
so
awesome.
Thank you to PJ because it really she could see that Pearl is kind of a leader of the group, which I hadn't really perceived because she doesn't chase other horses around or anything like some of them do to each other. But she said, no, Pearl is like the anchor there. And it's completely changed my view of her. Like, I don't just see her as this brat anymore. She's like, anyway, it's still developing, but thank you so much to you.
Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. I know PJ has some really good insights that I'm grateful that she was able to help you out and seeing those. And that's that little thing, right? Because again, it's like they're yielding the space and we're like, oh, they don't want anything to do with me. But then when you notice actually the nuance of even to the point they like pop their shoulder and you can actually see this subtle movement of the shoulder and be like, yeah, you can buddy up with me. And so it's neat how what I heard is that you're like, oh, I tried doing a sentry, but she was like, nah, that's not what I need. And so then you went to the next thing of like, why don't I try walking the perimeter? And so therefore it was like she did. She was like, salute to you, hats off. Well done. Thank you so much. And if she is, a more of a protector, um, teacher, mentor for the herd, then yeah, she's just like, we need another level. That sentry, nah. What else do you got, Violet? So it's really neat that you were able to think about what else could I do to help her feel safer. And now that's really, it sounds like it's deepened so much for you.
Yeah. And I mean, she just walked up to me, said hello, and then walked on. She didn't want to hang
Yeah,
out with me, but I was
right.
like, well, that's good enough. I was really excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good job.
Oh my goodness, that's so gratifying that she's just like,
Yeah,
yep, thank you very much, Violet. Have a nice day.
yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, good enough.
And again, I just like, I'm really feeling grateful to, what Sharon has put together for us because it really is such a huge thing that we can notice these little things that have such a deep meaning. And PJ, did you want to say something? I see that you unmuted yourself. Or that was an accident. Okay, never mind. If you wanted to say anything, you're welcome to do so. Um, Yeah, thank you, Emily. Like, because just like you said, Violet, and then Ducka brought in these little things that have such deep meaning. And even to the point where Violet said, she checked in and then walked away. And it's like Violet didn't take that like, oh, she doesn't like me. Like it was a compliment, right? Like that's the thing of like when we have these leader horses, their personalities, they are very powerful and that they don't, mince words, so to speak. They're like, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon. And and the more that we can get on like in with these protector, director, inspector type horses, it's so powerful. It is so darn powerful, and they are such fantastic teachers. So we're just about here at 11 o'clock Eastern time, and it is time to close down our meeting today. Thank you all for being here. And I just got chills about reading this chapter with y'all because of the fact that these boundaries are so important to the safety of equines because they need to know that everything is safe and that we all know where we are in space. So it was a pleasure sharing space with you today. And all we would like to do here with Horse Speak is give you the gift that the horses gave to Sharon, which is exact and specific nuances of how our body, it truly can communicate clearly with horses. And all we need to do really is take some time to study. And really, the video club is where it's at, truly, to be able, and we have online courses, like I said, but to really, for the best bang for your buck, $30 a month, and we are doing a holiday special. You can check out in the mailing today for if you want to gift the video club to somebody else. We're doing a special till the end of the year, or gift it for yourself. That watching these videos forward, backward, left, and right is how to enhance the observation practice because this is a visual kinesthetic language that the eye does need training. Just like driving a car, you had to take the time it took to be able to be like fix the radio and roll down the window and do all these things, but it took the practice. So just like driving a car, learning horse speak is a language and it does take some time to be able to become efficient. And Ducka has been a part of our Everything Means Something program. Alexis PJ has been with us for almost a decade, and she's now running our club for us when we're traveling. And Nancy's been in our EMS program. So, it really is this language that can blossom so beautifully for y'all. So, it's not about Sharon, it's not about myself or PJ or any, it's just about you being able to learn and do this thing. So enjoy the journey, have fun, and until next week, we'll talk to you soon. Love you so much. Take care.